The Canadian Seed Trade Association honorary membership is presented annually as to the individual in honor of his or her significant volunteer contribution for Canadian seed trade and to the Canadian Seed Trade Association. CSTA Board of Directors unanimously decide that this year award would be presented to Tim Tregunno. We wish he could have been here to take the podium to receive this well-deserved award. But we lost Tim earlier this year. His family is here to receive the award. I would like to ask Wayne Unger and Dave Hanson to come to the podium to read the citation.
Thanks, Alexander. It was my honor and privilege to nominate Tim, and also my pleasure to notify Tim of him winning this award. That's a memory that I'll cherish forever. Tim was a mentor and a friend. When I served on the board with him, and then when I was approached to join the executive and go through the board to become president, I called Tim and I said, Tim, been approached with this, what's your feeling? And Tim said to me, Wayne, it was the most pleasurable business experience that I ever had, and I would recommend that you go through to be the president. So that's what the CSTA meant to Tim Tregunno. So we know that Tim's life journey didn't lead him here to be with us today. But I'd really challenge the thought that Tim's not here, because he is here. So Tim had it, and every once in a while you'll meet somebody in your life that enriches you, and you become a better person, and you're richer for the experience of just having known and interacted with that person. And that was Tim Tregunno. I'm going to ask Dave Hanson to come forward and tell you about Tim Tregunno.
Thanks, Wayne. My name is Dave Hanson. I'm with Cantera Seeds. I'm actually humbled to be given the opportunity to help honor the memory of our friend and colleague, Tim Tregunno. I want to offer my congratulations to Nancy, and to Emily, Allison, Fraser, and Mitch. We're so pleased you're all here today to accept the CSTA Honorary Membership Award on Tim's behalf. The Tregunno family is no stranger to the CSTA. Tim's dad, Warren, was in fact one of the founding members of the CSTA dating back to 1967. We go back in time in '92, Tim and Nancy were the convention chairs for the annual Halifax meeting. '96, Tim joined the CSTA board, and I was actually joined the board with Tim, and that's where our long friendship began. Tim was obviously very, very active in the CSTA, particularly with the Garden Seed and Organic Committee. In July of '03, Tim stepped into the CSTA chair position, and once again, Tim and Nancy welcomed us all back to Halifax in '04 for the annual meeting. Tim was a very well-accomplished man in many different ways. Besides all the obvious contributions to the seed industry, I really want to focus on what Tim was and who he was and what he stood for. First and foremost, Tim was all about his family. So proud of them all. Tim and Nancy were the best of friends and partners in every aspect of their lives. Emily and Allison certainly his pride and joy, and Tim would do anything for these two very wonderful ladies, including grooming them for the continued success of the business. making Emily the third generation of the Tregunnos to be an active member of the CSTA. Tim was also an accomplished sailor. He loved the water and spent much time as possible with the other lady in his life, the Brie, or at the lake, or at the summer home in Lunenburg. In his spare time, Tim had this business called the Halifax Seed Company to run, which by way has the distinction of being one of the oldest continuously operating family-owned seed companies in Canada. And the tradition continues as Emily, Allison, and Fraser continue that legacy. Tim was also very active in the maritime business community as he was in the CSTA. He has many awards and accolades to show for his time and energy and those efforts that he put into that. As we all know, Tim was always a strong voice and ambassador for the Maritimes in the province of Nova Scotia and the city of Halifax. I've told many people, and Wayne alluded to this a moment ago, that Tim was truly one of the good guys. He was a man of integrity in every facet of his life, and what you saw was what you got. He was straightforward, honest, and sincere. And Tim was one of the least pretentious people I knew. Tim was well liked and well respected and was befriended by many. And this was so evident at the service in March in Halifax, where hundreds came to pay their respects. He was one of the industry's finest, and I'm proud to have had him both as a colleague and as a friend. And Tim got it. I agree, Wayne. He knew how to manage his priorities and how to live life to the fullest. Tim's time with us ended far too soon. But his contributions to this great industry and the maritime business community will live on for a long time. Tim, we all miss you. Your charm, your wit, your humor, and your passion for life in the seed industry. Thank you. Tim, not being here today, has left his words with Emily, so she will actually give Tim's acceptance speech.
I guess it's a pretty bad day when both Wayne Unger and Dave Hansen make you cry. So we're going to try to pull it together. Thank you, Dave, for your kind words, and Wayne for nominating Tim. I know Dad had a special place in his heart for CSTA and those that were involved with such a great organization. He always said that being president of the CSTA was the highlight of his career. So now, being the planner he was, back in January, he did write his acceptance speech. I'm going to apologize now because he actually wrote it all in caps. And for those that did any sort of email correspondence with Tim, everything he wrote was always in caps, including this speech. So, I want to thank you for this wonderful honor. I am deeply humbled, truly honored, and was very surprised when I got the call. If I can indulge you with an anecdote. During the Victoria meeting, I was the outgoing past president and John Cowan was the incoming president. We had a visit during the banquet from the Queen, and Cowan and I were knighted. On our arrival home, our neighbor Barb arrived to welcome us, and I informed her that from now on she was to address me as Sir Tim. So he relayed this story to Barb about how the Queen had dropped into the CSTA meeting and knighted me and another fellow. Now, the real Queen was actually on tour in Canada at that time. We had the Victoria meeting, and she was in that vicinity. So I was stretching the story a little too far, but I didn't think too far. Barb, however, is very gullible. So I worked it a bit more, and she finally announced that she didn't see anything in the paper about the knighting, and she was going to call Fred and find out why, and promptly left. So Fred is the GM of a local newspaper. So at this stage, I'm thinking, oops, I actually may have gone too far. So I think it was my mom, who said, we need to do something about this and do something about this very quickly or else it will actually end up in the paper. So anyway, Dad, tail between his legs, had to go over and let the cat out of the bag. The upside was apparently this neighbor didn't speak to him for quite a while. So for those of you that haven't had the pleasure of meeting Tim, he was more the vegetable seed type guy. So coming in as a president, he had a lot to learn, and this was his list. So I've learned so much from CSTA. Like KVD wasn't a Soviet spy agency, but something to do with wheat. OECD was a bunch of countries that are supposed to cooperate. NAPA wasn't a type of cabbage, but a plant organization, and they actually have an invasive species committee. UPOV isn't a Greek plate breaking tradition, but a union to protect plants. And that an orange international certificate really is orange, and a blue is actually really blue. But most of all, I learned that this is an industry and an association that has a really great group of friends. Thank you very much.